Welcome to The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly podcast featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 193, we welcome back to the podcast, Sister Jenna. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Good morning and welcome to the Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson, otherwise known as RCA, and I am the host. I'm here today in 818 Studios with my producer.
Good morning, everybody. This is Dave Croft, and thank you so much for joining us for episode 193 of the Authentic Spiritual Journey. As always, I hope you had an amazing, stellar weekend, and thank you so much for joining us for the beginning of another week. It is the last day of February 28th. I can't believe we're settling into 2022.
Yes, and we have a very special guest in the studio today. Were you going to announce that, Dave?
No, I'm just going to let it happen because she's one of my favorite people on the planet.
I know, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome Sister Jenna back to the show. Hello.
Hello, sister. Welcome.
Om Shanti, and you guys are my favorite people too.
Well, I was thinking with, well, I haven't seen you in person in so long, so it's wonderful to see you online. But this summer, no matter what, I am coming and I'm bringing my son to visit you at your new center. And one of the reasons we brought you on, we were talking before we got on air about, the journey you've been through in the last year with a new center. And now you have this new book out on meditation, which, as you know, meditation is near and dear to my heart and really so important in my journey that we're glad you're here. Really, really glad you're here. So,
Thank you.
The last time we talked, let's just start there because I feel like I want to catch up our listeners. And I also want to acknowledge, if you hear a little something in my voice, I did have COVID. I am recovering and all is well on my end, but you can still hear a little in my voice, but I'm healing and all is well. So tell us a little bit about, the last time you were here, you were... you lost the old center, you're moving in the new one. And even though that was quite a journey for you, as we were saying, now looking back, what would you say in terms of, this journey to the new center and your book? And I mean, it's been quite a year.
Well, you know what I would say, that everything is predestined. What can you do? You think you're doing everything that you feel you're in charge of, but there is something more mystical and deeply connected that, let my ego keep thinking I'm in control, but the world of mysticism will continue to humble you. So it's been a great 9 months so far. Mm-hmm. Maybe the only challenge is, taking care of Sister Gita, whose dementia has become quite advanced.
Yes.
But she's been asking me to take her to India. I want to go to our headquarters in Mount Abu in Madhaban. So I said yes, and we'll be taking her, and that's going to be a wonderful experience. And we'll see how that all turns out. But everyone, we're all going to go through something or the other, and that's going to actually help you to push you closer to God. And whether you want to admit it or not, every difficulty or whatever you coin difficult is actually a gift pushing you closer to the divine.
I absolutely agree. And, it's so opposite of what our culture thinks of as spiritual. We want to make up the story that when I get spiritual, everything goes perfect and there's no challenge. But it is, I believe, how we meet that challenge. It's seeing the challenge as an opportunity to grow our soul, because of course, ultimately, that's what we're here to do, is to grow our soul, not to be comfortable. And, I've dealt with this both personally and professionally over the last year with, we were talking, before coming online, that at my new ministry, there was a unexpected flood. And it happened to be on the weekend. I was already not going to be there because of being home healing. And I got a call saying, there's 3 inches of water. Well, at the beginning, that didn't feel like a blessing. because we had to cancel church. One can only handle so much blessing, right? But but we canceled church for that day, and luckily I already had a talk, recorded, which was also very unusual. So, but as we looked at it, and as I've really taken that into my meditation and journaling practice, it's like, I don't understand it from the mind level, but on the soul level, I completely see its rightness. There was a wonderful minister who was there before, but there was a lot of old energy just in the house left from the former owners that, because
That's
it was
what
a
I was
home.
going to say. That's what I was going to
Yes.
say. Sometimes it's not even just you
No.
that's, really a part of the story, but it's also the collective energy of the people
Yes.
either around you or before you, or just the collective global atmosphere that has a way of sneaking in and manifesting
Yes.
opportunities to move
Yes.
us closer to the divine. Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Well, and, people are asking questions. How can I help? It's brought a
Yeah.
different engagement also. And so I feel ultimately the divine in that, even though, like I say, on the human level, there's contractors to deal with and, and such as that. But I also know anybody coming into our community is seeking a blessing. And so we
Yes.
get different people who would never have come in our building are there right now, so that, yeah.
Well, I want to go back to, the comment you made that when folks come into spirituality, they think like everything becomes honky-dory. Actually, before you come into your awakening, things weren't really that honky-dory, or so you wouldn't be seeking something deep within.
Correct.
But when that awakening happens, or that aha moment, or that entry, or that portal expands, despite whatever you were going through on the external, somehow your spiritual awakening becomes a shield of protection of the external situation, really traumatizing the soul.
Yes.
As it would if you weren't in your awakening and you were taking everything so personally. And,
yes.
Yeah, and letting it really hurt your spirit. And then the worst part is not being accountable for maybe the karmic role that you're playing in it, but to begin to blame someone for making you go through what you're going through, or feeling
Yes.
what you're going through. And so when we do come into our spiritual awakening, to me, it gives you the weapons that you need to deal or combat the karmic baggage that we might be carrying that really needs power to really suffice, to really get down and get out of the way.
Yes, there's a transmuting and transcending.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And at the same time, being able to just deal with life on life's terms. I mean,
Yeah.
like you say, I remember one time we were talking and, it was hammering in the background and contractors there, and it's part of running a center.
Yeah, yeah. To me, the center is home. It's an ashram where,
Yes.
since we've been here, there's not maybe I can count on my both hands how many days we've had where no one has come through the door.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, it's just a constant flow of friends, family, just coming in, sitting in a very grand meditation space. And it's God's home, so it's everyone's home. So just
tell
imagine.
me about that. Tell me about that, how that is feeling, and where is the new center for our listeners?
Well, it's in Virginia, and it feels the way that it used to feel when everything was opened up before the pandemic. The only difference is I feel a little bit more settled in terms of I'm observing myself and I'm recognizing a little comfort zone coming in. And I don't like comfort zones at all, because I know that's when my decline is taking place. And I'll tell you how I felt that my comfort zones are happening. I have to maybe go to the bank, and I really don't feel like doing it. And the bank is only like 10 minutes away.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
like, just get up and go to the bank.
Just get up and
I'll
make
go
it happen.
tomorrow. I'll go tomorrow. It's a simple thing. But then when I observe that happening once or twice or three times, I'm like, what's going on? I know what that means.
Yes.
So now I'm beginning to balance that out for me personally and making myself remember the age that I'm in. I'm in the confluence age, which is an age of great transformation. It's the age between the Iron Age before the Golden Age opens up. So the Iron Age, Kali Yuga, is definitely coming to a close.
Yes.
And that Kali Yuga is being fed by anger, lust, greed, attachment, and ego. Remember algae? And so that's coming to its real climax right now. Look at what's happening in the borders of Ukraine. Look at what's
Yes.
happening in the Congos, in Eritrea and Ethiopia. Look what's happening here in the American political system. It continues. So that algae is responsible. And I think we lose sight of where to draw the solution when we think of only the label, the image, or the physical form. And we
Yes.
don't turn inwards and recognize the subtle internal thought form that's actually responsible for all the chaos that we're witnessing in the world. So, we're all going to go through something because God is calling us home. And as a result of that, the universe and the drama is conspiring with the divine to make things in a way that if you don't come with love, peace, purity, if you don't come with love, peace, purity, truth, and joy, then you're going to have to fight it out.
Yeah.
You're going to have to
It's
kick
going to
and
be
scream.
all the ego. Yes, all the ego stuff. And it's exhausting. I mean, the thing that I've really come to in my own journey and, and supporting so many people on the spiritual journey is that it looks, if you're not doing your spiritual work, it looks like getting in that fight is the only way to have power. But that fight is exhausting and brings no resolution to what you really want. It's only for my journey and the people I serve, it is only when I can tap into that observer self, that higher self, and approach life from there that I have plenty of energy, plenty of love, plenty of, expansion to be able to just see more clearly what's going on. And I realize that fight is not for me. That the fight just keeps it going. And there are these internal thought forms that are so attached to let me make it happen. And it's never going to shift that way.
Yeah. I've been recognizing that, and it's something I'm working through currently. I've often thought that it was just God, that God's energy is just such a driven force in me, and I feel like time is getting shorter in terms of living comfortably the way that we are, or living to some extent to have this notion that we still have conscious choice, or, we're still in charge of our lives. I feel like there's a period where all of that's going to come to its also closure, because the intensity of the outside world will become so powerful with the algae, anger, lust, greed, attachment, and ego, that it will influence the thoughts that we have. And if I don't build a very strong shield of my relationship with the divine, so that that vibration will not enter into my field, then it's as if I'm going to get swallowed up in it, and I won't even know that I'm swallowed up in it.
It's true.
The only thing I'll know is I don't feel good, and I wish the world wouldn't be like this, whatever it might be. So I've often, seen myself very activated and very, very engaged in all communities. But lately I've been feeling, and I'm not sure if it's the pandemic or it's just being given such opportunities, taking care of a parent with dementia, or the meetings, or just my maturity. But I'm wondering if my balance is really to slow down and do more from the mind. And even though I've kept my mind pure from too much influence of waste and negative emotions or thought forms, it still can get influenced. I still
Yes.
see that it can get pulled. So the interior energy of the intimacy and deep connection to God needs to enhance. So I've been working on that lately, Cynthia, that I'm looking more for a balance within. So it feels a little uncomfortable, but I'm being very mindful of how I'm going about it, that I'm not slipping into
Yeah.
maybe a weakness within my being
Mm.
versus a vision that is pulling me into another state of being. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, yes. I wanted to talk a little bit about that, what you're saying about thought forms, because I think for many people, this idea is new. But as we realize that all thoughts are energy, and thoughts can become, thoughts are energetic, as you're saying, energetic thought forms, and they have a reality of their own. And so when we think about the world as we're talking about it, it is that lower vibrational thought forms where you're describing it as algae. That's funny. Say what all the algae again: anger, lust,
Lust,
greed.
greed, attachment, and ego.
Uh-huh. And these thought forms have a reality. They have a energetic, a vibrational reality that when we're in those forms, in those thought forms, it controls our behavior in a different way than if we're in the higher self, the observer self, the spiritual self of us, and can move into the observer self to see those thought forms. It's a completely different interior vibrational reality. And I just wanted to slow that down, what you were saying, because I think until we know that cognitively, sometimes we can't shift and go, oh, wait, it's like, why am I feeling this way? I'm frustrated, I'm angry. And then we will know, okay, we're in these lower thought forms. Time to, get back into the higher self of us again.
Yes, yes. And that's why the opportunities that emerge in our lives, whether it's through a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
health, finance, a flood, they're
Mm-hmm.
all going to
A
help us to
flood.
kind
Yeah.
of move closer to discerning that, do I want to deal with this from the anger, the fear, the frustration? Because
Yes.
anything you put your thought form energy into gets stronger.
Oh, yes.
So
Yes.
if you keep serving at that level, then of course don't expect a different result of some heaven, and Cupid and angels, coming down playing violins if you're like so angry and pissed and disappointed and afraid of situation. That's not going to happen. But one of the things that I've noticed is, because in our study of Raj Yoga,
Mm-hmm.
I think once I realized that I was an immortal, eternal, and imperishable soul,
Yes.
that would automatically make me into a detached observer
Mm-hmm.
of things that were revolving around me, because I knew
Mm-hmm.
that even though things might be predestined, then maybe it's also predestined for me to stay evolved in the midst of the uncertainties and challenges and opportunities that occur in and around my life.
Mm-hmm.
So the awareness of believing, just think about this, everyone. I am immortal,
Mm-hmm.
eternal, imperishable, and pure. And just having that awareness will begin to, I think, govern a different form of choice.
Yes.
You will make choices that have that intention, which will keep clearing the pathway for you to move to another level, another level, another level. And that's where you can feel like you're holding the divine's hand on the journey. And you are definitely not alone in whatever it is your soul has to go through.
Yes. And there is a real peace in living from that place because, yes, you are able to live life from a higher awareness and say, you know, ultimately, at the level of the soul, all is well. I can really say all is well. I'm dealing with things in the outer, but all is well at the level of the soul. And, when we come back in the second half, I can't believe we're already at 20 minutes. I want to talk a little bit more about how we get to that observer self, and to talk a little bit about your new book on meditation as well. And I want to make sure as also that our listeners know how to contact you and more of your teaching. So we'll be right back right after these brief messages, and happy you're with us, dear friend. Hello, dear friend. I'm really excited about a new course I'm offering beginning Monday, February 21st, Your Spiritual Roadmap. I want to make sure you have the right support for your journey. I want you to be able to navigate the signs that life sends, as well as avoid pitfalls on your spiritual journey. I am excited to be able to give you resource pages, to do some daily work, and to know that you have support for this journey we call life. We already have a few people registered, and we'd love to have you join us on Monday, February 21st at 7 p.m. The course is only 3 weeks long, but it will give you practices and resources for many years to come. So we hope to see you on Monday, February 21st at 7 p.m. Go to my website to register, CynthiaAliceAnderson.com, and book now Your Spiritual Roadmap. I hope to see you then, and blessings on the journey, dear friend.
Just a quick update to note that classes start tonight, February 28th, and have been extended through March 14th.
Welcome back. We're glad you're with us, and I think I want to make sure I mention in the ad between segments, there's always a little bit about a class coming up, and that my class actually starts tonight. It was supposed to start last week, and I think it's so interesting with what we're talking about today with Sister Jenna, because the name of that class is Spiritual Roadmap. And it's not exactly a map, but there are signs on the journey. And in truth, as Sister has mentioned, we do have a little bit of a predestined life plan, and we'll touch into that a little bit in the course, and there'll be a lot of strategies and help for you moving forward. So if you haven't registered yet, you can still register today, and the class does begin tonight online at 7 p.m., so we'd love to have you there. But we're happy to have Sister Jenna with us. We were talking first half about dealing with those thought forms, those negative thought forms, moving into the observer self and this higher self of us, so that we, of course, desire to grow, to evolve as souls, and that there's this expanded self, this expanded awareness that is available to us. And it was making me think, Sister, that, the key in my journey to finding that has been my meditation practice. So tell us a little bit about your new book, if you will, or anything else you want to share about that. About how do we get there? Yeah.
How do we get there? Sometimes through pain and suffering.
Yeah. Tell the truth, honey. Sometimes.
Or through love and light, or maybe even by default. My entry into spirituality and meditation was through my parents, who became teachers in the Brahma Kumaris movement, which is a predominantly female-led spiritual community that is headquartered in India, but now has 9,000 centers in 120 countries. So I've had the fortune of being surrounded by many women mentors of spiritual ilk, or that spiritual dignity, I should say, that continues to become a mirror for me to look into, to see what I can become. One of the things I think young girls especially need, everybody, they need to see images of a higher expression of existence.
Yes.
And I think if we look into the media, we read magazines, the news, we go to our next door neighbor, and we're consistently being reminded of the algae expression of our personality, then we stay there. We don't know. And we might only want to see ourselves based on the color of our skin, or our religious affiliation, or the language that we speak. But when we break through all of those limitations and go back to what I said in the first segment of the show, I am immortal, eternal, imperishable, and I'm pure, then imagine the kind of expression through your black skin, through your white skin, through your Asian skin, through your political skin, through your language and your career and your titles, that you become so conscientious that the choices that I make leave an impression. So meditation, there are various types, which I mentioned in my new book that was released this month.
Yes.
And I found it very interesting that the book was released on February 2nd. Let me see if I can get it in the camera. February 2nd, 2022, and it has 222 pages. So I said to myself, there's something about that just has some mystical something to it that I can't even think about. So the publisher, Sacred Stories Publishing, approached me a while back to do a book on meditation, and I thought, it's not the time for meditation. At meditation, anybody can go and meditate online in a book. People don't want to turn to a book to learn to meditate. So I declined her invitation, and then she circled back. And for some reason, I accepted it. And what I loved about this is that I travel with 37 authors in the book, co-authors. I'm the featured author because I do most of the talking in the book and sharing. But the whole book is about the experiences that we've had with our connection to Source, or our awakening, or the call that came. And how the call changed my life. And so these intimate experiences with the divine are being shared. So when you read it, you get this feeling of remembering when you had yours, but maybe you no longer feed into it. Or you start to think, am I ready for my call? You know, so these thoughts will come up. So it's a really nice bedtime read. We can read each story before you go to bed at night and see the mystical experience it has. I've been hearing from people, they've been having very profound dreams about God's light, or they've been waking up feeling just a little bit different. But I want to go back into the question that you asked about, the how you get into the meditation. And I said, whether it's through suffering or joy.
Yes.
It's a normal thing. We all meditate. It's just that we're not healing ourselves as fast as we want to. Medere in the Latin terminology means to heal. So when I practice meditation, I'm healing the hurts that I have taken into myself because of someone, something, situation, circumstance. When in reality, I am still the master of my destiny, so I can choose to take your garbage or not. So when you're into the pathway of meditation, you begin to stand up from inside and say, I'm done with allowing the outside world to influence the way that I should feel. So in the teachings of Raj Yoga meditation, there's 5 main classes. Know who you are, know who God is, be aware of the karmic relationships or situations you're going through. Did you know that everything was cyclical? And there are 8 powers that you can use when your lower self emerges in front of you. So in your discussion today about being the observer, so the observer is when you're in the experience of the sentient quality of the soul. Your show is so perfect, the authentic spiritual journey. And so when you're in soul awareness, when you're in soul consciousness, if you remember that session I gave years back at your former camping ground where you used to play around, that soul awareness is a level of consciousness that you carry inside of you when you're walking, when you're cooking, when you're eating, when you're picking up your phone, putting it down when you're having a text. That if you're coming from soul consciousness, which is a belief system, I am pure, I'm a good soul, I make friends, I sustain things, I look out for others. These are all the languaging. These are some of the languagings that will come through you when you're in soul awareness, or some of the thought forms that you'll serve. But when you're in the algae form and you're in the body awareness form, you lose friends very quickly. You're very afraid of your destiny. You question. You don't trust anyone. You don't even trust your destiny. So
You
you
don't
see what
trust
algae
yourself.
does?
Yes.
You don't.
Right.
So you can see what algae does. Algae really takes you into a very heavy and gross state of mind, which you can get addicted to or very used to. When you tune into the meditation, it taps into your subtleties. So then you start to recognize that heaviness and doubt is not me.
Right. And there is an energetic interior feeling and difference. You're right. When you're in the mind, really stuck in the negative thought forms, there is totally a heaviness to it. And everything seems worse than it is. It can literally feel like a weight on you. But when you're in this, the higher self, the expanded self, there's a lightness to it. There's an awareness that even though I'm experiencing this, my soul is at peace. My soul is at rest, even though there's things I have to do in the outer. So, yes, I think what you're describing is very, very true. And I wanted us to keep speaking into it because I think right now, because we're also, addicted to our phones, that the messages we're getting are kind of on rapid fire, and we can find ourselves in the negative thought forms before we really realize it. And it's like, wait, why am I feeling, tired? Why am I feeling kind of frustrated at the littlest things? And it's because the subtlety of the way those thought forms come in, pretty soon that's becoming our general feeling and awareness. And like you were saying earlier, we're forgetting we've had these moments where we're really in contact with the etheric realm, where we've experienced the mystical, and we're getting mad about something we have absolutely no control over. So I want to just keep speaking into that so that our listeners can go, yes, I need to remember when I'm stuck in there that there's a higher awareness available to me.
Well, I think that takes us back to what has been like a thread in our conversation today, that there is a need for 7.5 billion souls out there to make an intimate link, to establish an intimate link with the divine.
Yes.
And why I think that is so needed now is all the external situations and people, places, things, they're going to fall apart. They're going to keep changing and becoming more reduced in their energy to give to you what the soul wants to feel comforted by.
Yes.
And if my marriage, if my health, if my money, if my kids, my mind, if all of that starts to wane and become less than what I feel I deserve from it, I will not be, like what you said, at peace. And being at peace with yourself is the greatest currency a human being can have.
Yes.
And it's the greatest currency a human being can distribute and share with others. And when we don't have that currency, just imagine the debt that we're incurring in the soul. And so who can remove the debt? It will be God's light, Baba, who I call Baba.
Yes, teacher.
That supreme consciousness that says, I'm here to remove this algae from you, because when you left me, I didn't send you down to suffer, but it seemed the universe and the drama is a play about happiness and sorrow. But now if you can keep thinking into me and being into me, I guarantee it, not only will you get everything you've ever desired, but life will just be so much easier for you. And for the life of us, I just don't know why we don't take that route. We take the rough road.
The rough road. It's so true.
It's
so true.
We're so addicted to it.
Yes. Well, I think in general, we're addicted to suffering and we think that's how life has to be lived. And honestly, one of the reasons I do the show is so people know there's another option. You know, somebody asked me the other day when we were talking about the show and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you're all over the world now and over 80 countries. You must really be," and they made it about income and said, "Oh, you must really be making a lot of money." And I burst out laughing and I said, "This show, we're definitely not in it for the money. We're in it for
Service.
sharing, for service to humanity because I want people to know there is another way to live." And when Dave and I share our journeys, we did a show recently where I was sharing about having COVID and I just shared my human experience with it. It was just important for people to know we all go through things, but there is another way. And I think what our world needs is to wake up to this way. And I think we are doing that like moment by moment, soul by soul. So you'll never hear about it on the news, but I believe it really is happening now. I know because of souls like you that we were brought together. And as soon as I met you, I said, I'm going to know her forever. Our souls connected. There's a peace there. And this is what we're about, waking up to this inner peace. I have it more now than ever, and it is gift to my soul.
Such a currency. I call it the greatest currency.
It's a great. I've never heard that, and I love that.
Yeah. Recently, Ellen, who is approaching her final season, she had our wonderful friend, Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith. I mean, people were floored when Michael spoke. Then she had Ainsley MacLeod, a psychic activist that will go back into your past lives. And in other words, that's mainstream there. And mainstream is now finally, there's a pebble. There are pebbles
there is.
that are
There's
throwing
a little,
in.
yes.
Yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there. Of course, everybody knows Deepak Chopra and everybody knows what Oprah's been also trying to do. I just feel that as you continue your work, and with all of your listeners now in 80 countries, imagine the ripple. Imagine the ripple that's taking place with every one of these shows.
Yes.
And so who's going to be touched by it? There might be somebody in mainstream media that just happened to have turned to the channel and just said, "This is it. I love what she's saying." And then they reach out to you. And so you never know how the universe unfolds in your favor and offers you the investment or the surplus of all the effort and the purity. You and Dave have been doing this for Seva. You're not making millions. I don't make millions on my America Meditating Radio. Actually, I have to spend millions to keep America
There's always money going in.
And
but that's a true service. But that's true service.
Yeah.
And, I'm always provided for, but I just thought that was funny because they heard me say I said, I think we're at about 200,000 downloads, maybe a little over. And they were like, whoa, 200,000 downloads, So, but it's one of my greatest joys. We always record early. And today we're recording actually on my birthday. And Dave had initially said, well, do you not want to record on your birthday? And I was like, well, of course I want to record on my birthday. This is what I love to do. And it's funny, in my practice this morning, every morning I spend some time journaling and doing deeper breathing. And this morning, my I am for the day is I am born again. In every moment. So this is my intention for today, is in our time and in my thoughts that I can be born again in every moment. And I love your our sharing today. It's helped me be born again in our time today.
Well, listen, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear born again.
You're born again.
Hey,
yes, just call me born again. I'm the minister formerly known as Cynthia.
I am realizing that once the soul entered the body the greatest gift we were given was life.
Yes. Yes.
And if we can just pause and just look around your environment and say thank you.
Yes. So simple.
And at the same token, just say, now what next?
Yes.
You know, what's next for my destiny and my future? You'll just feel like you won't just stay where you are, but that you're just on this journey. You're moving. You know?
Well, I don't know if you know how well you know Ricky Byers, who is a wonderful singer. And there's a song she has. I don't know if we can find it, Dave, for the show notes or not. It's an older song, but it's called How Can I Serve? And we'll end with that. It goes like this. How can I serve today, sweet spirit? How can I serve today? Oh Lord, speak in ways that I will understand. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. And I love that. That song comes to me so often. And that's the question, dear friends. How can I serve today? How can I be of service? And always know when we're of service, we're in the higher self, right? It's the highest spiritual calling when we can be of service to others. So, Sister Jenna, thank you for your service to humanity through your work at the center, through your book, and all of the work you do on America Meditating and such as that. So we're honored, really, that you take time to be with us, and we're so happy to support you, the center, and your journey, and always know we are a resource for you. But we're honored to be with you, to share space. And then we'll have some links in the show notes to make sure people know how to reach you. But sister, is there any events you have coming up? We should just ask before we end today. Is there anything you want to let people know about specifically?
Well, I don't know if you all had joined in our big event on February 22nd, which was the Global World Meditation. And so if you happen to have missed that, my recommendation is to just Google Unify or americameditating.org to bask into the energy of that vibration. And every month on the 22nd day, we will be doing something for Water Day, Earth Day, and so on. But also in terms of my book, The Meditation Intimate Experiences with the Divine Through Contemplative Practices. You can get a copy from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or again on americameditating.org. But if for anybody out there who's really serious about deep, intense transformation, go to brahmakumaris.org. There's a center anywhere around you. And whether it's online or at their meditation centers, all classes are free of charge. Feel free to tap into that energy. If you liked whatever Cynthia and I shared on the show today, I forgot what episode it was, 195 or something. That's a lot of shows.
193, yeah.
It is a lot
193, 193. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Just tune into the brahmakumaris.org for some really, really deep transformational work.
Yes, I know there's a wonderful center here in Orlando as well. So, yes, friends, thank you as always for joining us today. We hope you have enjoyed the show. We know you have. And happy you're joining us from around the world. We love lifting you in prayer. We love supporting you, and we're honored to support your journey. So we will see you next week, and blessings on the journey, dear friend.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2022, Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.